Okay, so it seems that the recording is starting. And I am going to replay the video that I recorded last Thursday in the class. And please just let me know if you cannot hear the sound. Can you guys hear it? It's good? Awesome. So as you see, I am here, Adam is gone. So Adam will come back to talk about the other part of the our course, but for cryptography, it will be me teaching you about those information. All right, so for me, I usually like to start with logistics. So let's just talk about a little bit about the logistics. I guess everyone knows that assignment 2 is released, right? So the due is February 3rd. So it's gonna be next Wednesday on or before 11:59 p.m. MST. Basically, you wanna make sure that you submit it before midnight. And we just came across a record from one of you guys who managed to submit assignment 1 in 11:59. I think it's like 17 something. Like it's very, very close to the deadline. I mean, good job, dude. You managed to do it before deadline. You won't get deduction. But I still encourage everyone to start early because you just don't want to really be like super like accelerate hard because of assignment. All right, so for this assignment, as you may already see, there are 2 parts. One is the continue part of Bandit. Bandit. So you should still like try to learn those Linux command and get more levels done for the Bandit challenges. And the other part is to help you to write a access control program, which you will take some inputs and try to output the the right messages according to your access control rules. So if you haven't started part 2, I encourage you to start early because part 2 is going to take you some time. And if you already start part 2 and you come across some error message like you submitted and it didn't pass, and you will find that some of the messages they're not complete, which is intentional. So that means that you will not be able to see the entire message. You will not really be able to see what exactly the testing cases are when you didn't manage to pass them. So it's your job to think about what are possible scenarios, what are possible corner cases that we can make it as the test case and it may fail your those like access control rules. So spend some time to think about that. And I encourage you to start early so that if you still have questions, you can ask me or Adam or other TAs during office hour. You can also just like shoot us message through Piazza. In terms of assignment 2, yes, you have a limit submit. And yeah, I mean,
wait.
Hey,
we have a limit submit. Like we can only submit it like once or twice or.
No, you have a limit submit. You can submit them as many as possible, okay. Right? And also that's part of the reason I want to start early because like you can figure out the problem very early and then you can just keep submitting, trying to figure out what is wrong. And like seriously, office hour, usually it's going to be very helpful because like for me, my office hour, I will ask the students to share the screen with me. And then I will ask the student for the specific error message they get from Gradescope. So I can really help you with analyzing your possible error and then help you solve the problem. So if you do have any problems, any questions about your assignment, I highly encourage you to attend office hour. And especially that we have office hour Monday to Friday every day. So really, really like take advantage of that. And in terms of communication, I would like to emphasize this again. I'm pretty sure that Adam has mentioned this before, but I just want to emphasize again because I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So we don't really use Canvas. If you send a message from Canvas, we may not be able to receive it. or we may not be able to receive it in time so that we can respond to it properly. And also, like for me and for Adam, we prioritize Piazza over emails. And the reason is very easy because just we have too many emails. Like right now, I have 2,500 unread emails, and you don't want your emails to be buried in those like so many unreads. So, but Piazza is something that we check regularly every day. So make sure that if you're having questions regarding assignment, especially those technical questions, just ask in Piazza. And also, if you ask in Piazza, you're not gonna like have to wait for me or Adam. You can also have other TAs and UGTs. They will really be very friendly and very, actively answer your questions through Piazza. So I would say, like sending a message on Piazza is usually the most efficient way for you to get an answer from us. So if you email us, you can still email us. You can email us for technical questions and like personal issues, but we will not be able to get response as quickly as Piazza. So make sure that you make your strategy in the best way. All right, so far, any questions in terms of homework or communication? Good. And I haven't shared the slides on course website because there's some questions that I want to ask you guys, and I don't want you to know the answer yet. So I'm not going to post it now before the class, but I will post it after class. So you will still be able to get the slides later on. All right. So guys, today we are going to start talking about cryptography. And before we start to touch it, I just want to have a broad discussion with you. Like, let's just chat this together about, like, in your daily life, what have you been through, or say, what kind of applications have you had that you know it is related to cryptography?
The Signal messaging app is end-to-end encrypted.
Exactly. And what else? I list some of them.
Is VPN encrypted, or am I just wrong here?
It's also encrypted. Okay, cool. Anything else?
Someone put in chat online purchases. That's what I was going to say.
I mean, if you're talking about crypto, like Bitcoin purchase, then yes, it is crypto.
No, like that's the whole HTTPS thing. When you order something from Amazon, they put all that through some kind of cryptography, don't they? All the communication about it.
SSL, and also like HTTPS. So, or say more generally, when you visit an HTTPS website, everything is encrypted. Although like from your end, when you use browser, you can't tell, but actually it is encrypted. And the reason why it has HTTPS is to like tell you that this website is authenticated. It's the real website. It's not someone impersonate, like Amazon impersonate, say CSE our class, right? Like 365.io. So that's also part of the reason why our course website is also set up with HTTPS, because I don't want other people to impersonate us and then assign your assignment. Cool.
Sorry, you cut out about like my suggestion that VPN is encrypted. Is it encrypted actually, or?
That's a very good question. All right, so yes, so VPN tunnel is an encrypted connection. So usually that is encrypted. Cool. Okay, so I got a message saying that you guys can hear me very well. Let me check my mic. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. You just sound a little distant from like your microphone.
AirPod, probably that's the problem. Let me just switch to another audio. Give me a sec. All right, guys, is it better now?
Yep.
That's perfect.
Awesome. Yep. Thanks. Thanks for letting me know. All right. Yeah. So in terms of applications, I mean, there are good and bad applications. Like good people use cryptography because they want to be secure in communication. Although we're going to talk about like what does it mean by secure later on. And then bad people also use that, such as ransomware. Right. So people just like they maliciously encrypt your file in your system, and then they ask you for ransom. Okay, so now we know that, or you may already know this beforehand, but like now I'm pretty sure that everyone, we're on the same page, that we know that crypto, it sounds pretty theoretical, it is math, but it's actually very close to the daily life. So that's part of the reason why we want to learn crypto in a introduction level of computer security, such as this class. Right, and Tor. Tor is also encrypted. So now let's come to this question. So what kind of security property that you think that a good crypto scheme should meet? So this comes to, the application that we just mentioned about. We have those different kinds of applications for crypto. Then what is a good crypto? What is the bad crypto? If you have a like encryption, decryption mechanism, how are we going to judge like this is a good one that I can use, or this is not a secure one, so I should just abandon it? All right, so to answer this question, let's gonna have a game or say a class demo. I need a volunteer. So anyone who like to vote yourself as a volunteer? All right, I see in the chat. So is that Samuel Everson? I don't know if I pronounced your name correctly.
Yeah, close enough.
Good. All right, so let me have Samuel here. And I'm gonna send, first of all, I'm gonna send Samuel some information. And also I will send Samuel an encrypted message, but everyone will be able to see that encrypted message. And I will ask the rest of you to think about what does this encrypted message say. And also I will tell Samuel like how to decrypt this message so that Samuel will be able to know what this message is. So Samuel, just give me a second. I'm gonna send you a direct message through chat.
All right.
And we can start from there. All right, so everyone, you now be able to see the message that I'm gonna send to Samuel. And then Samuel, I just send you the message.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna give everyone, including Samuel, 30 seconds to think about what this message is about. All right, guys, and I am gonna pause here because I want you to also think about what is this message is.
$30 seconds in. Do you want me to start like decrypting it?
Yes, 30
Oh, okay.
seconds for you to decrypt and 30 seconds for the other guys to guess what it is. Then let me write Samuel's name over here.
I think I got it.
Oh, yep. Oh, Oh, sorry, I just sent a message to you directly, Samuel, but I actually mean everyone. Cool. All right, so I know some of you guys already guessed it out. I see the message on chat, but Samuel, would you like to share the message that I sent to you?
Oh, hold on. Sorry, Zoom got messed up. Just the message you sent, just the
Yes.
one?
Yes.
Oh, everyone gets an A sounds great.
No, that's not the
No
one.
one? Oh. Oh, that's the either I did it wrong or was it just gibberish that you'd sent me?
I send you the table for you to substitute those letters.
Yeah, no, I did, and it came out.
So what is that message about?
It's unless I did it incorrectly, it's just kind of a bunch of random letters.
Yeah. Take your time.
Oh, do you want did I mess up the encryption or the decryption? Does it actually say something?
Yes.
Oh crap! All right, hold on.
Like the message, it's in your screen right now. I mean, it's in the slide. PJXX CSE.
Yeah. I
Yes.
must have messed up the decrypting. Hold on.
No worries. Take your time.
Oh, so, okay. So I'll read the. Do you want to just like read out the individual letters for it?
Yes, please.
Okay. ETUUFKFRUP.
Yes, that's correct. So this is a very confusing one because I know that many of you have guessed that this is hello world, but this is not. And the reason is because actually the true reason is that I messed up the code book. So Samuel didn't get the correct code book and it didn't get the right message. But on the other hand, this can be part of our discussion. So what do you guys think about this decryption? Do you think it is good or do you think it is bad?
It's probably not terribly great because you can make out a pattern pretty quickly.
Yes.
If you look close enough.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Because smart people like you guys, you can guess it out. You think that this is hello world, although it doesn't, but you can just use the say the letter's frequency, right? So to infer what letter it is. All right, so any more possible ways that you can mess up this? So think about that now. Me and Samuel, or say here I just put it Alice and Bob because usually we just use these two guys, these poor two guys to
to denote two people communicating, right? So consider that there are two people, they're communicating through a public channel, and then there is Eve, who is a very smart but bad person, just like one of you guys, other than Samuel in this class. So you will be able to see this communication, right? So you will be able to kind of infer the message if you see the message. On the other hand, what you can do besides like eavesdropping the message, potentially, what else can you do? Yes, change the message. I saw Joseph texting in the chat. So another possibility is that someone can just like change this message. Like instead of say hello world, or instead of looking at the decrypted message that Samuel got, he can just change the letter. So Samuel will get another message. Maybe Samuel get another message saying like, hello Samuel, instead of hello world, right? Or say like, hello someone else. Okay, so what are other things that you can come up with for Eve? Okay, cool. Emma says that you cannot confirm it came from Alice. That's correct. And also, even worse, Eve can impersonate Alice, right? So Eve can pretend himself as Alice, and then just like send this message to Bob. And then Bob will have thought that this comes from Alice. Maybe Alice will send a secret assignment solution to Bob, but that solution is wrong. And then Bob thought that this is the true solution and he'll just use it, right? So now let me just list this 3, and there can be something more. But now I'm just like listed the 3. You can eavesdropping, which is also called spoofing, right? And then you can, the attacker can manipulate message, or it can impersonate Alice. So those are possible issues that the crypto could have, and we need to avoid them. So I'm listing some of the security properties that a good crypto should have. First is confidentiality. Like this is one of the principles from the CIA model, right? So confidentiality means that you cannot guess out. You cannot guess out that this is hello world. You cannot know that this is like this message doesn't make any sense, but like E plus plus. You will not be able to know the actual plain text, the actual information coming from the encrypted message. And the second is integrity. So meaning that you cannot change the message, and you cannot change it so that when the receiver receives this message and decrypt it, it will get a different message. So this is about integrity. And the third part is related to what Emma just said, authentication, right? You cannot confirm, you should, like a good crypto should be able to confirm that this message truly come from Alice. It doesn't come from anyone else. So other people cannot impersonate Alice. And furthermore, there's another term which we call the non-repudiation. So it is a combination of authentication and integrity. Consider the scenario that like I send a message, I send a like a very bad sentence, maybe like an F-word sentence to Samuel, and I don't really want to do that, but I send it, right? So I'm very regretful, and I want to deny that I send it because I know that it is not ethical for me as an instructor to send such work to a student. So I want to withdraw it, but also like I want to deny what I have sent to Samuel. So this comes to the non-repudiation. A good crypto should make sure that no one can just deny what he or she has sent before. So it is a combination of authentication and integrity. All right, so far, is there any questions? Sorry, and guys, is there any questions on your side? I'd like to pause and wait for you to ask me questions if you have any. Good. All right, let's keep moving. Are you good? Okay, so now let's continue. Before we start to talk about some interesting ciphers, some interesting crypto systems, first, let me just give you guys a heads up or say like a brief terms. Those are the terms that we're gonna use throughout this part of our course, throughout this cryptography part of the course. So we are gonna use plain text, meaning that that is the original message. And we're gonna have cipher text, which means that this message is encrypted. And then we call like different kind of encryption, decryption mechanism, we call it a cryptosystem. So it is a system that describes how to encrypt or decrypt messages. And there's one thing that I want to make sure that you guys can differentiate, which is encryption, decryption, and encoding versus decoding. So the key difference is that encryption and decryption aims for those security properties. Like we want to make sure that it is confidential, it doesn't harm integrity, it is like it can be used for authentication and also like non-repudiation. But then encoding and decoding, they don't serve for that security purposes. And usually encoding, decoding, it's just like, it's a way to transfer from a message, like a decoded message, a plain message, to an encoded message so that the communication will be more efficient. And then the end, like the other side of the people or the other end who receive this encoded message should be able to decode very quickly. And then it will always be able to recover it for whoever receives this message. And usually encryption and decryption, they have keys, because that's the key that whoever has it, like only the guy who has the key will be able to get the actual decrypted message if he receives an encrypted message. Yes, like Enigma. Enigma is one of the crypto systems. Okay, so I saw Dylan is asking what is encoding and what is decoding, right? So I am listing some examples here, and I want you guys to tell me whether or not this is encoding, decoding, or encryption and decryption. So the first example is UTF-8. Can anyone tell me this is encoding, decoding, or encryption, decryption? So this is encoding. And can any one of you describe why this is encoding, decoding? I'm looking at the chat as well. Right, there's no keys. And everyone can decode it. Right, no need for security. It's public, yes. So UTF-8 is encoding, decoding. And then the next is converting or say translating from English to French. Yes, it's also encoding, decoding. Of course, you don't have a key to translate. You don't have to have a key to translate English to French. Cool. And then the third is RSA, if you heard about that. If you don't, you can just like Google it. It should be very quick. You don't have to know those exact mechanism, but like just have a 1-2 sentence briefly talking about RSA. That should be sufficient. And yes, it is encryption because RSA requires a key. You have to have a key to decrypt the message. Cool. So that is the difference between encryption, decryption, and encoding, decoding. And I really want to make sure that in your like daily life, because I do see this, and sometimes actually, unfortunately, some of the like encryption, decryption libraries, they messed up these two terms. When they decrypt or encrypt, they use this encode and decode as their APIs. But really, I want you to know that that is not an accurate way to describe this process. So we should really be able to understand the difference between these two different kinds of terms. All right. So next, then we have those fancy terms already, and we're gonna use those terms to describe the different kind of crypto systems. And actually there is a formal definition for a crypto system, but I feel that it's too early to start to make this formal. I mean, I understand sometimes making it too formal is boring. So I want to start with something small and concrete, and later on we can come back to the crypto system and talk about those formal definition. So first, let's talk about the first one, and I believe that many of you have heard about it, which is Caesar Cipher. All right, so for Caesar Cipher, it is invented very, very long time ago. If I remember correctly, this has been used since 2000 years ago. So it's really an ancient crypto. And at the beginning, the way that it works is that, so every letter, it will be added by 3. So it just like converts each letter plus 3, and you will get the cipher test. For example, if you have letter A, then plus 3, so just like move forward for 3 letters, and you will get D. So it's a very easy substitution. Cipher is a very easy algorithm that just like convert one letter to another letter, substitute it. Then, and also a general form for Caesar cipher is that instead of just specify this conversion, like C is equal to n plus 3, you can just change it to any other length. You can change to any other letters. So for a general Caesar cipher, you can say the key is I here, meaning that this is the key that you need to use to decrypt this message. So you know that how to convert from one letter to another. Then the question is how to attack Caesar cipher. I know that if you manage to decrypt the message that's sent to Samuel at the beginning of the class, you should already know usually how to attack a substitution cipher like this. So it should be very similar. And then now I'm asking guys, how do you attack my message? And how did you attack Caesar cipher? Okay, Nathan says that we can find patterns, right? And can you be more specific what patterns that you're looking at? Right, and Starfax says use the most commonly used letters in English language like E. Yes, that's great. That's more specific, and that's the right way. And Nathan also mentioned about double letters, right? I mean, because there are not so many English letters that you use it, like you double it, right? So really, if you look at double letters, you narrow it down to a very limited possible options. And Jicheng says that shifting, I guess what you mean is just like try different kinds of I. That can also work, but that can be expensive. Okay, Dylan also said that try every possible I value, iterate that, brute force it. Okay, yes, yes. Great. You guys are very smart. You have all different ways to try it out. That's fantastic. So as a recap, as you say, one way is to do brute force. And also we're lucky because for English, we have only 26 letters. Consider, I'm just trying to, I'm not a expert in all different kinds of languages, but now I'm thinking, maybe think about like Japanese or Chinese, right? There are so many different kind of characters. So if you are coming across a a language like that, then you're probably gonna screw it up because there's no way for it to really brute force so many different kind of combinations, like the mappings between one letter to another letter, right? Right, or even just ASCII characters, because there are like 128 or say 256 of them. So brute force is one way, but it can be expensive. And another way is what is called statistical analysis. So this is also something that you guys has talked about in the chat, but I'm just gonna make it more systematic. So one way that you could do is you can check the letter frequency, the statistical letter frequency in English. And for example, in English, usually the most common letters is E, T, A, O, I, N, and then like letters such as J or X, Q, Z, they're used the least common. So if you have, say, many ciphertext, then you can calculate their letter frequency. You can do a statistics on those letter frequency, and then map those letters with the English letter frequency, like map that with this graph, and you should be able to get some patterns, and you can just like guess. Maybe you find that there is, for example, maybe you find letter D in your ciphertext occurs for many times. It shows very frequently. Then you can think, oh, maybe letter D is something like E or T or A, O, I, N in English. And then you can infer from there, right? If E is the actual ciphertext of D, then what about the other letters? If they all like go with the same switch, like if I is constant, right? So you will be able to guess out the other letters, and then you can try to substitute it. You can get the possible decrypted message and see if that is truly English, right? So that is one way. But what if you have very few ciphertext? And for example, an extreme example, you have only one ciphertext over here. So if you have only this one, and then you want to guess what is the plain text for the ciphertext, what you could do. And some of you has mentioned like, see if there is double letters together, because that is a very strong pattern in English, because there are not so many letters that used like two in a row, two together, right? So in this case, there's no double letters, so you cannot use that pattern as well. What else can you do? One way that you could try is that you can try for every possible key, which is the I in this case, right? And then you calculate the correlation of the frequency of the letters in the ciphertext and the corresponding letters in English. So you still need to try this for every possible key, but instead of just like, instead of converting it, instead of really decrypting this ciphertext to a plain text, you just calculate the frequency of each character in English and each character in ciphertext. For example, here, let's say I is equal to say 1. Okay, so it means that you only, if the letter is A, you're gonna change that to B. If the letter is B, you're gonna change that to C. So you only just switch each letter by 1. So in this case, then C is the ciphertext. If you look at this ciphertext, then C, okay, and then X is the plain text. If we are assuming that I is equal to 1, so in this case, the plain text is JKL, so it's K, right? So you want to check the frequency of K character K in English according to this graph. And then you want to times that with the frequency of character C, in this case, which is L, in the ciphertext. So you have this two probability times together, and then you sum them up. And in this case, you will have all different kinds of characters, and you will be able to get a phi of I, which is a sum of probability if given a particular value of I. So basically, a correlation. This calculates it's like a value representing, say, like the success rate, or say the likelihood that this I, this like shifting, this I is equal to a particular value. So, and in this case, if we do that, for every I starting from 0 to 25, we're all gonna have those different phi I value. And then we sort them. After we sort them, we find those top of them. Say, let's look at the top 3, and we consider that as the candidate. And then we decrypt the ciphertext using this top 3 candidates I. And you will get this 3 possible value. And then you just eyeball it to find whichever one reading most likely English, which is 13, I is equal to 13, and you will get, you should never build your own crypto. All right, so that is an example, but I want to emphasize that like this is not the solely way for you to, to break Caesar cipher. There are many ways to do that, and this is just like one way. And as you see, we also already mentioned different approaches depending on the situation, depending on how many ciphertexts that you have, how much computing resources that you have. Okay, and even more interestingly, for Caesar cipher, actually you don't have to do this by yourself. There are many online resources that you can just use. If you just search, Google it, like Caesar cipher attack, usually you will get a lot of online websites, and you can just like input your message over there. And sometimes they ask you to specify the key. Sometimes you don't even need to specify the key. You can just like use key guess, and then it will decrypt the message for you. Cool. All right, so that's pretty much about Caesar cipher. I'm gonna stop here and ask you guys if you have any questions. No? Good. So I know that we are running out of time. So we are, right? Just double check. We finished at 11:15, is that correct? Oh, 11:45.
We finished at 11:45.
Oh, great, sorry. Yes, so we have 30 minutes. We have 30 more minutes. Great. All right, so that's for Caesar cipher. And then next, as I said, now we, oh, sorry, I left to phone me. Good job. So probably in the future, when we talk about different kinds of crypto scheme, like RSA or AES, all different kinds of decryption, encryption schemes, we're gonna reuse this crypto system. We're gonna introduce those, using those terms. So if we're gonna talk about a crypto system, then we need to first consider 2 parties, Alice and Bob. Or in our class context, it's gonna be Tiffany and Samuel, right? So we have 2 people, and they want to communicate with each other in a public channel, but the message itself can be encrypted. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there are 6 variables that you need to pay attention. The first is message. We also call it plain text. And usually we use M to represent a plain text or the message. And then the second variable is ciphertext. Is the encrypted message is encrypted from the plain text. And usually we use C to represent that. And followed by that is encryption algorithm. Encryption algorithm, you can consider it as a function mapping from message space M to the ciphertext space C. So no matter what the algorithm is, it is always a mapping. It is always a function that converts a message, or say a plain text, to a ciphertext. And similarly, you have to have the decryption. Otherwise, you encrypt and then you just no longer know what it is, right? So you also need to have a decryption algorithm, which converts from a ciphertext to a plain text. And then usually those encryption and decryption algorithms, they have keys, and they may or may not have the same key. So here we want to specify it because we want to make this crypto system more general. So we're gonna say there are two different kinds of key. One is encryption key, which is a key that's gonna be used in the encryption algorithm. And then the other is decryption key, which is the key that is used in the decryption algorithm. So we use like KE and KD to represent encryption key and decryption key respectively. And if you look at the figure, you see that in this setup, this is Alice and this is Bob, right? So Alice has this encryption algorithm. And then given a message that Alice wants to tell Bob, Alice first used the encryption algorithm as well as the encryption key to convert it to a ciphertext, right? And then the ciphertext is then passed through this public channel. And also it means that, you know, an Eve can be here, a bad person can be here, it can spoof, it can change content. So there's Eve over here. And then throughout this public channel, the ciphertext will be passed to Bob. And the reason why we put C prime here instead of also C is because someone in the middle can manipulate this ciphertext. So that's why maybe the text that Bob received is not the same as the text that Alice sent. But anyway, Bob will receive something. Maybe it's the same as C, maybe it's different, but we just call it C prime to be general. So after Bob receives this message, Bob will use the decryption algorithm to decrypt the message. So Bob will use this decryption algorithm with the key, and then Bob should be able to either get the correct M or get an error. We don't hope that Bob get another message like M prime. If that is the case, that means that this crypto system has some problem, because that means that Eve will be able to change the content so that Bob will get a different message. Okay, so far so good. Any questions? Great, now let me continue. So for crypto system, we can divide it. Okay, one question, is C prime the same as C? The answer is no. So as I just said, it's possible that there is an attacker in the middle and he may change the content. So it may change C to a different message. So that's why we use C prime, because C prime could be the same, it could be different. All right, so let me continue. We usually divide crypto system into two different types. And this is the way that we divide it is by the key. So we can say symmetric cryptography or asymmetric cryptography. I don't know if any of you have heard about this before. So for symmetric cryptography, it has the requirement that the encryption key is same as decryption key. So that means that Alice and Bob, they use the same key, and one is to use it to encrypt and the other is to use it to decrypt. For example, like Caesar cipher, right? So Alice has the key. Alice make the key maybe equal to 3, and then switch every letters by 3. And then for Bob, it also has the same key 3, and then it just like move the letters backwards for 3 steps. So it will get the other letter, the decrypted letters. So this is the situation where say this is one instance of symmetric cryptography. I'm looking at the chat, and one question is that what's the difference between the encryption algorithm and the encryption key? So encryption, you can consider this. When we have the Caesar cipher, we have these things, right? E is equal, or say C, sorry. Let me change that. C is equal to m plus I, right? So this is Caesar cipher. And then this is the encryption algorithm. So it's a function. So you can consider this as f of m is equal to m plus I. This itself is the encryption algorithm. And then I here is a covariant. This is the key. So the algorithm itself describes the function, describes like how to calculate how to put them together. And then encryption key itself is just like one element that will help you change the conversion, but the like how to convert this part doesn't change. This is the algorithm. So is decryption key always equal to encryption key? That's a very good question, and the answer is no. And this comes to asymmetric cryptography. Let me go to the next slide. This is exactly what Si-Hyun has just said. So for asymmetric cryptography, the encryption key is different from the decryption key. All right. So in this case, then we still want to look at this particular scenario. And for asymmetric cryptography, how it works is that Bob himself will first generate these two keys, decryption key and encryption key. So he himself generates two keys, they're different. And usually this key, encryption key, is called a public key. And the reason why it's called public is because, as I said, this is public. So Bob will send this key to Alice. There might be some guy in the middle, right? Maybe Eve also be able to get this public key, but it doesn't like stop Bob from knowing the message if Alice is gonna send a message in an encrypted message to Bob. So as long as the public key is correct, right now let's just assume that it will not be able to change the public key when Bob sends this public key to Alice, although that is a problem, which I will mention that later. So suppose that Bob is able to send this public key successfully to Alice, then Alice will have this key, public key. And then when Alice wants to encrypt something to Bob, and then send it to Bob, Alice is gonna use this public key, encrypt and the encryption algorithm, so convert M to C, and then send this message to Bob. And in this case, even if someone in the middle, he tries to change the content, because Bob is the only person who has this decryption key. So Bob will be able to decrypt and get the message. Maybe someone in the middle, they will change it. So a good asymmetric cryptography algorithm should make sure that when someone, because he may also has this public key, when someone sends a message using this public key, and Bob should be able to tell that if this message truly comes from Alice or someone else. This comes to like authentication, which we will talk about that in future lectures, but not today. So right now, I just want you to understand if there is, if there is asymmetric cryptography, if people wants to use asymmetric crypto to communicate, how does this like process being established? So it has to be Bob create both decryption and encryption key and distribute the encryption key, making sure, I want to make sure that this is encryption key. It's not decryption key, because Bob wants to know the plain text and Bob doesn't want other people to know the plain text. So Bob is the only person who's gonna hold this decryption key, which is also called private key. So Bob is gonna have that in his hand, but then distribute the public key to the rest of the audience. So I got questions asking, can Eve create and send a false message to Bob using the public key? Yes. So Eve can create and send a false message to Bob using the public key, since the public key is public. And that comes, the question is how Bob, how Bob be able to identify like this message truly coming from Alice, it's not coming from someone like someone else, someone trying to impersonate Alice. And this comes to this like authenticate. Just give me a second, my pen doesn't work. Authentication. Right. Authentication, right. So this comes to this issue, and we will talk about that in later lectures. Okay. So, and then another question is, Alice could have a published public key that will only decrypt messages, send with Alice private key. So public key is not used to decrypt message. Public key is used to encrypt message. So I guess that is the problem, that is the part of your question. So basically, Alice will not use a public key to decrypt any messages, but it will use private key to do that. Usually, like it's always the case that someone who get the public key will use that to encrypt a message that's gonna send to the other guy who has this public key, has a private key. Right, so, but if you're signing it, right, if you're signing it, then you're using this publish the public key. This is something that I will talk about in the later, like this is authentication. This is also related to Ryan's question, but I'm not gonna touch it today. Right now, let's just talk about encryption and decryption messages. And then for authentication, we'll cover it someday later, but still we will cover it in our crypto part. All right, so next is, let me continue, clear this. Okay, and now I want you guys to think about what are the pros and cons for symmetric and asymmetric cryptography. Right, one possible issue for symmetric cryptography is that can't share symmetric trees, symmetric key. So if there is a key, then how are we gonna distribute the key? Symmetric looks simpler to, yes, you're correct. And following by that, usually symmetric cryptography, they have a better, like they're more efficient. They're less expensive in computing, in decryption and encryption. And also for symmetric cryptography, you're right, Ryan. So if someone gets the symmetric key, he can increment decrypt all the messages. So it's bad. You don't want this happen. You really have to make sure that your symmetric key has been protected very well. Right? Asymmetric tend to be slow, and symmetric can be easily brute force. That's yes and no, it depending on the crypto. Like Caesar cipher, it is something that's so easy to be cracked by brute forcing. But usually for like modern symmetric cryptography, it's not very hard. Actually, it's kind of so far so good. Like so far it's secure enough, and still actually in our modern life we still use it for symmetric crypto. Right, one-time pads. This is something that Tim mentioned, which we will also talk about in the future. One-time pads, it is used for symmetric crypto, and it is like theoretically unbreakable, or say it cannot be broken in polynomial time if it is implemented correctly. Right, and so this is good discussion, and then I'm gonna talk about this, something that I mean, there's no complete list. I'm pretty sure that the more you touch symmetric and asymmetric crypto, the more you touch like security in practice, you will get more concrete and more empirical feelings. But just like based on my feeling about crypto, about symmetric and asymmetric, I have listed some of the pros and cons. So for symmetric cryptography, the advantage is that usually the algorithms are more efficient. And usually it's just like, it's more simple because you can think about this. Decryption, encryption, they're kind of just reverse, right? Because they're using the same key. And then just like you convert from a cipher, a plain text to a cipher text using this key. And then you're just like use the same key to recover, to revert it back. So usually these two algorithms, they're kind of similar. They are symmetric. Usually the algorithm itself is symmetric. It's easier to design. And usually this kind of algorithm, they are more efficient because you don't have to be very complex to satisfy the property that you can just like use decryption and then encryption and then use decryption back, you will be able to get the plain text. But then the disadvantage is how to distribute the key securely. So if you have a symmetric key and you have to give this key to someone in the end, like your receiver, like Alice wants to share this key to the Bob, then Alice has to find a way to send this key to Bob securely. And that can be a problem. How to distribute the key securely so that no one else will be able to get the key. And of course, you cannot have someone to modify the key. And then for asymmetric crypto, the advantages, you don't have to worry too much about key distribution. Although you still have to worry that once you give this public key to other people, someone in the middle, they may change the key, but you don't have to worry about you just mistakenly disclose or say leak this key to the bad people. So usually it is public, so everyone will be able to get this key. But then there is disadvantage. This is something that Dean just mentioned. Asymmetric crypto tend to be expensive because you have to find a good algorithm that, first of all, the encryption and decryption, they're different. And then they're kind of symmetric in the sense that if you have an encrypted message, you can use this decryption algorithm with a different key though. It has to be with a different key because this is asymmetric crypto, so you will have a different decryption key, but using a different key, you will get the same plain text. So that requires a more complex and usually it's more expensive decryption and encryption algorithm. And then another possible disadvantage is that, what if someone just loses the private key? consider that Bob generates public key and private key, right? And then Bob just a little bit careless, and he just loses he just loses the private key. And unfortunately, there's no way for you to find it back. You just, when you lose it, because this is asymmetric. Even though Alice got a key, there's no way to recover private key based on a public key. Or say this is, when I say impossible, it means that there's no way for you to have a polynomial algorithm to recover a private key based on public key. So it's not gonna work. If you lose it, I'm sorry for that. And actually, this is part of something that you need to pay attention when you play, when you play your bandit challenge. Make sure if you use SSH, and for sure that you use SSH. But if in the future, if you're using SSH, and if you're using the key to log into SSH, meaning that you don't have to type your password, you just use your key, so you don't have to type your password, and you just log in directly using the key, then you really want to make sure that you don't lose your private key. And this happened on me before. So please make sure that you have a safe place that stores your private key, so that you won't be able to lose it. Or for me, I have a folder that stores all my private keys for different kind of repositories or different systems, different SSH systems. I do have a bunch of private keys, but I also have a nice way that I know that I have a backup. Even though I mistakenly delete one of them, I can always just find it back. All right. So this is pretty much for today. I intentionally don't want to, put too much content for this first part, the first class of crypto, because this is just the start, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. So let's just stop it right now. And as a recap, today we talk about Cryptosystem. We talk about Caesar Cipher, a very ancient and very easy cipher, and we show that it is really breakable, and you can break it very easily by yourself, or you can just even use online tools to break Caesar Cipher. And also we talk about, on a high level, what is a good crypto system? What is a good cipher? It has to satisfy some security properties, such as it is confidential. No one can leak, no one can infer the plain text by looking at the cipher text. And optimally, it is non-manipulable. People cannot just change it. And also people cannot impersonate the one who sends the cipher text to the other people. So this is about authentication. And moreover, we hope that the cipher can support non-deniable, non-repudiation. So someone who has sent a message before cannot deny this behavior. So those are the good secure properties that we hope that a cipher can support. Yep, and that's pretty much for today. In course of slides, I will upload it to our course website probably after this class. And also I will upload the video to YouTube. You will also get a link from the course website. And also, actually, you can subscribe Adam's or my channel, so that you will be able to get notification of those YouTube videos available all the time. I mean, I'm not a YouTuber in the sense that I chase for my subscriber. I shoot for a high number of subscribers. So just for your own convenience, you can consider to subscribe it. All right, that's pretty much it for today. Thanks everyone. If you have more questions, just ask me. I'm gonna stay here for a while, probably into. All right, guys, I am here, so you can feel free to ask me questions if you have. And I am also gonna just keep hanging out with you guys in chat, chatting with you guys for questions, or just casual chat for a couple of minutes. If you have more questions, just let me know. Yes, you will see me again on Wednesday. So the entire crypto session will be taught by me. In terms of the next assignment, I am not quite sure yet. Probably not this week. This is what I can tell. Probably probably next week. I need to discuss this with Adam, but I will definitely let you guys know once we have an idea.